This tutorial is for 8th grade ink self-portrait. This is just going to be a quick overview of the whole entire project from kind of a start to a finish. So we're going to start with gridding our paper and our picture and then go from there to drawing it to adding ink to it later. So let's get started. Okay, so on your paper, what you're going to do, so I already gridded the picture here, and it's just inch by inch boxes here. I like to do the gridding with pen, and especially red pen. It shows up a little bit better. That way you can see it through the dark parts of the picture as well. On your actual paper that you are going to be drawing on, you're going to be using pencil, and you want to use it, draw it very lightly. That way you can erase the grid when we are done adding ink and drawing the whole picture. So what I like to do is measure at the top of your paper and do kind of make marks at each inch. And our paper is about 6 inches wide. So we'll have a total of a mark at 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 on your inch ruler. And then I also like to do that at the bottom of the paper as well. That way I have, if you can see, I have dots at the top, and then I also have dots at the bottom. That way I can line my ruler up and get nice straight lines. That way all my boxes are the same size. And I'm drawing lightly because I want to eventually erase these grid lines. You do not want to see any of these grid line pencil marks at the end when you turn your project in. Okay, so after we kind of draw those lines down, kind of look like a jail bar here, we're going to also add the marks on the short sides as well. And those are inches as well. Start at the top, make a mark at each inch. We only need to go down to 6 inches because our picture is only 6 inches tall. Or 7, sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7. So you're going to go all the way down to 7. And I do marks on both sides again just to make sure that my squares end up being the same size. So they don't get bigger or smaller. They are an inch by inch square. Alrighty. So then you would go all the way down and make your grid all the way down. So then it will look like your picture grid. Once you're done with that, what you're going to do is take your picture grid, and we are going to transfer this picture onto our white paper by using pencil. I simplified these for you, so hopefully what you're just doing is looking at the basic shapes within your photo. You need to draw each one of these different values and shapes onto your picture. I think it's very important to use an L when we transfer. So what I do, I take the L and I cover up every square except for the one I'm going to be working on. Excuse me. So this first square here would be this first square, oops, sorry. This first square here on your paper. So I'm looking at it like this. So 1 and 1. Then I'm going to move over because there's nothing in number 1. Move my L over. And in box 2, I actually see a shape. So I'm going to end up drawing this shape on my drawing paper. So wherever you see it in the box, you're going to draw that in the box. So see this? It looks the same. Then once I'm done with that box, I'm going to scoot over to box 3. And I'm going to keep doing this and moving my L over until I have no paper left. Okay? So I just keep moving over and over, and I am drawing exactly what I see in that box. even those extra light areas. So there's a little light area up here that I need to add. That was on my picture, which is right here. So I got to add that on there. And if I look down, I'm only have a shape in this last corner here and nothing in the last box, so nothing again. Then I would move down with my L and keep going again. So nothing in that first box, second column, or second row. Move over my new shape so I can continue down. Okay, so I need to add all of these extra lighter shapes as well within your project. Okay, so once you're done with that, you kind of end up with something up top here. So I end up having my whole picture drawn out. Okay, once you're done with that, we're going to start numbering off the values on your picture. And that's why there's numbers on the face here. So your lightest number, which right here is the I, would be a number 1. So it's kind of like color by number, but we're going to do shade by number. So this would be your lightest, then number 2, 3s, 4s, 5s, 6s. So this one only goes up to 6. 6 is going to be your darkest. If you look at your value scale that we already did, we can also number that off. So this would be your 1s, your 2s, your 3s, your 4s, your 5s, and your 6s. So this is what your 6s need to look like on your picture. So if I come back to my drawing here, I don't have to do all 3. I could decide just to do hatching throughout my whole picture, or I could do all 3, or I could do 2. What I end up doing, I think it's faster to do cross hatching for the really dark areas. It seems to go a lot faster, especially versus stippling. And stippling for the very light areas. So like my number 2s would be stippling. And my in-betweens maybe are hatching. Okay, so this would be my number 6 in cross hatching. I want to make sure that it ends up looking the same. My number 4s here. This is 4. And in hatching. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So something like this. And so on and so forth. Your goal is to make sure each different shape of shading in your face, you can tell the difference between each one of them. So here, from your 6s to your 4s, you definitely can tell the difference of each shape. You don't want your whole face to end up blending together and not seeing any shapes. We're going to be adding the value with pencil first, just to make sure that each are blocked off and you can tell the difference. You can still erase if you end up having too much, or you can add more if it's not dark enough. Once you have it all labeled out with your numbers and then you transferred it to here, then you can start adding ink to your picture. And all you're going to do with your ink is you're going to go right over top of the lines you have with pencil. I'll show you what that looks like here. So my number 6s, I'm just going to go right over top the pencil that I already have. And add that ink. You're going to want to be very careful with your ink because you don't want any drops on your picture. Unnecessary drops on your picture will count against you quite a bit. So a couple tips for that is to have a scrap piece of paper that you can kind of dab your pen onto before you transfer over to your picture. Or you can kind of do a little jab or a little tap on the edge to get rid of those unnecessary drops that might happen. Another last tip that you could do is have a scratched piece of paper and cover up your picture, that the part of your picture that you're not working on. That way, if something does happen, it doesn't happen on your entire picture. It's just on the little part that you are working on. Okay? When you are finished adding ink to the entire thing, and you went over all of your lines or your dots, your stippling dots. So my number 2s was stippling. And all I'm doing is dabbing here. But you want to stay within the boundaries of that shape, of that value. You don't want to go outside the boundaries, okay? So you see my number 3s here. They go from one edge of the boundary all the way to the other side of the edge of the boundary. They don't stop in the middle. Okay. If you need to, you certainly can trace around that boundary with your pen. However, I'd prefer if you tried to do it without tracing around it first and seeing what it looks like. So that's the basic. We're going to let it dry once you are finished with the whole entire thing. Let it dry for one night, come back the next class day, and then you're going to take a big eraser and just erase any pencil lines that you will see. You'll end up erasing your whole grid lines that you see. Then you can do your grade sheet, and we're going to turn this in with the grade sheet and your original printed off picture I gave you. And that's kind of the basic of how we're going to add ink and shading to our self-portrait. Good luck.